How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. We're about 4 days away from opening day, and the Yankees are thinning out the roster, making some big decisions. We have some news on the fifth starter spot between Will Warren and Luis Hill. Has been a competition this spring, and obviously we've been waiting to see the results of that. But also, what are they doing at utility? Right now, Oswald Peraza is going to be out for the next couple of weeks. They haven't gone out and got a veteran. They still could. But Oswaldo Cabrera is starting to heat up here. He's starting to showcase some of that value and talent we saw in 2022 when he came up from the AAA and nobody really knew who he was. And, he put together a pretty solid sample size, played 44 games, hit 247 with a 312 OBP. Nothing to write home about necessarily. He did have a 113 WRC plus and provided substantial defensive value. Collected 1.5 WAR in that time span, which is pretty damn good for a player that really nobody thought was going to be promoted and make an impact. And last year, his stuff kind of fell off, played 115 games, hit 211, 275 OBP, 299 slugging. He just was bad. Had a 60 WRC plus. It sent him back down to AAA twice. He has two minor league options left, so they do have a little bit of versatility, or rather diversity, with how they can apply him. But it seems like he's going to make this opening day roster, and I think that he could be an impact player for the Yankees this upcoming year as he continues to get better offensively. He's been looking a lot better over the last couple days. We're going to break down what we've seen. But Ryan, before we dive into Oswaldo Cabrera, why he might be their choice at just kind of that super utility option, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. And look, Oswaldo Cabrera is kind of entering a make it or break it year. He has two more minor league options, which means he has this year and next year with minor league options. But, I'm not trying to sit here and start being doom and gloom guy, but let's be real here. If Oswaldo Cabrera doesn't perform adequately this year, he's not going to be on the team in 2024 or 2025. The Yankees have guys like Caleb Durbin coming through the system. Jordan Vivas is a guy who's going to be there. Looking at some other players, you have LeMahieu who's still under contract. Rizzo could potentially still be under contract depending on what the Yankees do with that club option. I know Gleyber Torres, that's a hole in your infield that you might have entering 2025. But with that being said, the Yankees are going to they're not going to just hand him the job every year. This year, he's very fortunate to kind of have this job on lock. There were some talks about whether he wasn't going to have the job or not entering spring training, but after the various injuries, or I wouldn't even say injuries, Peraza is an injury. He's not multiple. And then obviously LeMahieu's a little banged up. You wonder what his status for opening day is going to look like. That kind of makes it hard for us to, in my opinion, it's hard for you to make a roster that is Oswaldo Cabrera at this point. And look, he plays a ton of positions. I'd prefer for him to stay in the infield. That's something I would like to see going forward. Not that he can't play the outfield, but I really don't want to see him playing left field. Like, you have Grisham, you have Judge, who's played some left field now. Verdugo's obviously your everyday left fielder. Stick with that rotation of outfielders. You obviously have Pereira in AAA, who will be an option for you. I know that people don't love Pereira, but end of the day, he can actually play left field, and I'll take that over, trying to throw Cabrera out there. And, let's be real here, neither bat is necessarily overwhelming, so it's not like you're going to get a massive gap in offensive production. And then on the other hand, Alex, I think Cabrera has at least made some strides in spring training. He's looked better down the stretch, and, he had a pretty extensive offseason of work. I'm not saying he's going to hit, 30 home runs this year or anything like that, but can he be a productive major leaguer again? That's really it, right? Can he give me about a 95 WRC plus and play some good defense at short, third, and second? Because if he does that, he's a good base runner. He's a sound base runner. Last year, 1.4 BSR. That's pretty good. Like, that's passable. We're gonna be talking about what, like a 2-WAR player, right? You just need to take him out the outfield, which that's step one. Keep him out the outfield, because in second, third, and short, he's a great defender, and it'll boost his defensive value, and that'll boost his WAR value to your team. And then you just need the offense to be good enough so that he doesn't kill you on the offense side of the ball. And look, if you ask me right now who I would start at third base if LeMahieu weren't to be ready for opening day, and this might shock some people, I go Cabrera. Look, Kevin Smith, I don't know. The glove just has been so bad in spring training. I feel like that glove has been brutal, man. It's been really bad. This is no disrespect to Kevin Smith, but he's not cutting it for me defensively. I don't even think he should make the roster. Respectfully, all due respect, and I hope that what actually happens is that he makes it and he balls out, and then I look like an idiot in about 2 months because he's a Yankee, so I'm rooting for him. Like, I want him to succeed. He's a New York kid, so he's working his tail off. I know that for sure. And I hope that he can exceed my expectations for him. But when I look at Cabrera, I know I have a sure-handed glove at third base. That's a plus for me. He's left-handed, so you imagine he's gonna be better against most matchups, which is right-handed pitchers in his career, which is a short career sample size at at third base. He has +1 defensive runs, +2 defensive runs saved, and +3 outs above average. But the fact that it's a small sample size almost makes you even more enticed by that defensive value, because it means that in a short sample size, he's been able to provide a lot of defense there. He's got a really good arm. He's a good athlete. Again, I just need, can you give me 95 WRC plus, play second, short, and third at a good rate, and just do that. If you do that, he's on this team for the next 3 or 4 years. Like, he's on the team for the next 3 or 4 years, and he's a valuable player, and he'll help you, and he'll be a fine utility option at the 9th spot in your order if you need him to come help you out. You don't have to be a superstar. Not everybody on your team is going to be a superstar. You just need somebody who can play at a certain level and contribute.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing to see Cabrera like batting in the mid of the order last year, like the heart of the order, which is not where you want him to be. Now they don't need him there. They can kind of stuff him to the bottom and survive with his defense. And that's really where the value that Cabrera offers is his defensive value. I was just looking at it. He actually does have pretty solid arm strength. He ranks in the 82nd percentile in arm strength, which is actually more than I thought it would be. But there's some areas offensively where he desperately needs to get better. Now, we know the Yankees have been toying with the idea of actually having, we know he's a switch hitter. He's been hitting lefty against lefty pitching, which is traditionally, like, if you're a switch hitter, why would you do that? Well, his stats against, as a right-handed batter are just simply better. It's kind of interesting. Against righties last year, he had 215 with a 284 OBP. Against lefties, when he was batting righty, he had 200 with a 243 OBP. So his numbers were quite different. He had a little bit more power batting righty, but I think they want to capitalize on that short right portion in right field. So we'll see how they kind of operate. I think batting lefty is going to be where he predominantly goes. Maybe it's specific pitches that he's trying to take advantage of. But again, another area where he needs to significantly improve is with runners in scoring position. He's hitting 229 last year with a 300 OBP and a 329 slugging, a 629 OPS. I mean, look, you're not starting Cabrera because of his offensive value. You're starting him because he can hold it down at least an average level defensively. And every now and then, he's going to put a ball in play. Every now and then, he's going to hit a home run. But you're not banking on him to be a key factor in your offense like the Yankees really were last season. We were praying for him to step up. He just couldn't do it. Now, you can survive with him being a little bit of a liability because you have Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and Rizzo and Stanton, who's looking really good lately, and Glaber and Volpe looks like he's taking a big step forward. You don't need Cabrera to be a linchpin piece in your order anymore, so you just really are asking him to be a good defensive value. And as you mentioned, the outfield is pretty much settled in terms of having Trent Grisham as a good depth piece. We still have Spencer Jones waiting in the wings, who looked awesome. I know, I'm sure they're biting at the chop to try to get him some MLB action. But in the infield, like, Cabrera can play second, he can play third, he can play short, he's got the arm talent for it. He doesn't have much experience at first base, but in that instance, maybe if Rizzo misses any time, you push DJ LeMahieu over to first base and you survive at third. Look, it's not exactly what we would want. We'd love a player that has a little bit more offensive potential, but sometimes having good defense and experience at those positions is more than enough value for the Yankees to say our offense is good enough to survive Oswaldo Cabrera being a little bit of a below average hitter. But what are your thoughts about him hitting lefty against lefty pitchers? It's kind of an interesting strategy the Yankees have been implementing. How do you think he can take that step forward this upcoming season? How his metrics need to change, or maybe his fundamentals, where he needs to be focused on? Because I don't think he's ever going to be like a substantial power hitter. He's going to be looking to pull the ball and play, but I know you're a big proponent of pulling the ball. Maybe he needs to do a little bit more of that in 2024.
Yeah, so pulling the ball in the air is something I preach heavily, especially for a guy like Cabrera, who, as you mentioned, does not have a lot of raw power. There's not, a 112 max EV in there. This isn't Aaron Judge. This isn't even Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres, look, I understand the barometer for having strength shouldn't just be can you hit the ball as hard as Aaron Judge does, but look at a guy like Gleyber, right? Like, Gleyber isn't huge. He isn't 6'4", 6'5". He's about 6 feet tall. He isn't a hulking guy. He isn't, extremely, I'm not saying he's not jacked. He's a Major League Baseball player. He is jacked. I mean, more so in the sense of he's not this bodybuilder physique. He is in good shape to play baseball because you have to be mobile enough. You can't just have, just muscles everywhere. You got to have, mobility and still be a little limber, all that kind of stuff. And he still crushes the ball at a pretty good rate. Cabrera isn't that. Cabrera's not going to hit the ball that hard. And that's something he's going to have to kind of work around, right? And I don't want to make this something it isn't, but in a same sense, a lot of people try to make it seem like hitting the ball hard doesn't matter that much. Like, sometimes we'll talk about how hard Spencer Jones hits the ball. If Oswaldo Cabrera could hit the ball as hard as some of the other guys on the team, we wouldn't be having this conversation about what his role would be. I promise you he would be a significantly better baseball player. He can't do that. I understand why he can't do that. I understand why he isn't pushing himself to add like 20 pounds of muscle. He would like to continue to be able to play shortstop and third base and second base because that's where his value is. But with that being said, the offensive upside is still limited here. It's a very limited profile. Now, would it shock me if Cabrera was able to put together better game power numbers than he did last year, kind of similar to what he did in 2022 because of his ability to pull the ball in the air? Absolutely. Like, it wouldn't shock me. I would be, I would be pretty, I would say, like, yeah, that's an expected progression for him because that's something he was able to do before and it got away from him. Now, I would also want to put out there, and I'm not trying to suggest that Cabrera is going to be a stud or anything. I would also like to put it out there that he had one really good year, then he had one just lost season. And if the Yankees can just kind of get him back to where he was before 2023, and not saying it's likely, but it's not impossible. I mean, he could make a name for himself in this infield. I know that Vivas, that's a name we're going to talk about in the infield throughout the course of the season. Durbin is a guy who stood out and is somebody we're going to be talking about throughout the season or maybe next year. But Cabrera really has a chance to say, you know what? There's a lot of uncertainty in this infield. Let me go steal a job, right? Like last year, he was given the left field job. He didn't have to steal a job. Left field was Aaron Hicks and as well the Cabrera. And I know Aaron Hicks went on to have a good year at Baltimore, but he stunk with the Yankees. You know what I'm saying? So kind of looking at where Cabrera's at right now, this is an opportunity to steal a job. And there's a chance that he can play on opening day at third base. Run with it, right? Like if he can have a good year at the plate, I'm not saying a great one, just kind of like give me league average value somewhere in that range. You're an infielder on this team, and you could be the ninth hitter and play third base for, there's who's the third base replacement for him? LeMahieu, who's going to be 37 next year. Vivas is a second baseman. He's not really much of a third baseman. Durbin, probably more of a shortstop or second baseman than a third baseman, and about a year away. So, there's a cushion time for him to kind of get himself going, that being Cabrera. There is a window here, albeit a very small one, for Cabrera to steal a job, Alex. And I'm not saying that he's not trying to steal a job. I would never suggest that. I'm not suggesting that he's not working his tail off or whatever it may be. He is. But what I am throwing out here is this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't think he'll ever get a chance to steal a starting job on this team again. This is kind of his last chance, Alex. This is it, right? Like this, you get one more chance to steal a starting job, or you're the rest of your career, you're kind of a utility man, and you bounce around from team to team. But this is a chance to be the starting third baseman of the New York Yankees. I'm not saying right out the gate, and I know that's kind of a hot take, but hey, he showed he was capable of it 2 years ago, or a year ago. Last year wasn't the year that he wanted, but it's not like it's not like he's lost a bunch of weight, gained a bunch of weight, had a severe injury, lost all his mechanics. If he can get himself back to the right spot he needs to be in, I mean, we saw 113 WRC plus. Would you take a 113 WRC plus with good defense at third base? I would be screaming to the hilltop for that. So, there is a chance here that Cabrera has a unique opportunity to steal a starting job. And I'm not saying he's going to, but I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, look, there's going to be opportunities for the Yankees to go out get some veterans. I know, the Texas Rangers just recently, or rather Matt Duffy opted out of his deal, 33 years old, plays multiple infield positions. It's hitting 289 with a 340 OBP. Not a slugger by any means, but, there are going to be some guys the Yankees can consider. I think they would prefer to go with their homegrown talent, guys that know what it takes, guys that have worked hard, that are loved in the locker room, like Oswaldo Cabrera. I think they'd probably prefer to go in that direction rather than veterans outside of the organization, but we'll see how they operate, guys. Always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.